Hello, friends. Robert Bevan here, author of the Caverns and Creatures series of comedy, fantasy novels, and short stories. With me is Sam West, and today today is Marshall Monday. We are talking about the what?
I just like that in like 80% of our Marshall Monday videos. You're like, oh, wait, it's Monday. I almost forgot.
Well, it's Monday. What do you expect?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Marshall Monday, and today we're talking about the fighter archetype subclass, Psi Warrior.
Brain and sword. You know, it's the X-Men kind of thing I have to see, I guess. I don't entirely truthfully know the root or history of like the Psi power stuff. It's never been like a big thing I've been into the fantasy of. That being said, this option is pretty loaded. So, like, I could get over that for a character as long as I can find a different way to flavor what's happening here. So this is a new fighter archetype that fuels itself with a new pool of dice, similar to the Battlemaster Maneuver dice. You get a number of them equal to twice your proficiency bonus. So these scale better in the late game than your Martial Maneuver dice, which is pretty sweet. So you go from 4 to 6 to 8 to 10 to 12. That's a ton of dice. Additionally, you get them back whenever you finish a short rest. So you can get all these back every time you take a short rest. You get a nice big pool of them out the gate. I'm a big fan. They fuel what's called psionic power. So you start with D6s, and they upgrade to D8s at 5th level, D10s at 11th level, D12s at 17th level. And now I'd like to compare immediately this resource pool to the Arcane Archer resource pool and laugh hysterically at Arcane Archer for being an underpowered garbage option. Now, what you can do with these dice, there's 3 things you get at 3rd level you can do with them. You get Protective Field. So whenever you or a creature you can see within 30 feet of you takes damage, you can use a reaction to expend a dice, roll it, and reduce the damage taken by that number rolled plus your int mod, and create a momentary shield telekinetic force. So you get a little reactive D6 to D12 bubble of protection plus int mod, which is pretty cool. You get Psionic Strike, so you can propel your weapons with Psionic Force once on each of your turns after you hit a target within 30 feet of you with an attack and deal damage to it with a weapon. You can expend 1 psionic energy die, rolling it and dealing force damage equal to the number rolled plus your int mod. There's another thing that's adding int mod to something. It's a free D6 on hit damage as long as you're relatively close to it. Plays better on characters that aren't archers, but still works on archers if you wanted to be skirmishing around the 30-foot range. That's pretty fine. And then we have telekinetic movement, which is like a mage hand. So you can move an object or creature with your mind as an action. You target 1 loose object that is large or smaller, or 1 willing creature other than yourself. If you can see the target and it is within 30 feet of you, you can move it up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see. Alternatively, if it's a tiny object, you can move it to or from your hand. Either way, you can move the target horizontally, vertically, or both. Once you take this action, you can't do so again until you finish a short or long rest, unless you expend a psionic energy to take it again. Which means, and this I think is some of the best design they've implemented yet, you get 1 free telekinetic movement regardless of what you spend the rest of your dice on. You get 4 dice to do Protective Field, Psionic Strikes, and telekinetic movements. You can do any of those. You can mix and match however you like, but you will always get an additional free use of telekinetic movement, which, delicious. Now, you have a real reason to always use your telekinetic movement, even if you want to be using the rest of your dice on damage, even if you want to use the rest of your dice on defensive stuff. You get at least 1 utility option, which is huge, and it is a great step for fighters moving forward, I think. I've just threw a lot of stuff at you, Bob. Initial impressions?
Yeah, it all seems pretty amazing. I explain to me again the dice.
So you get a pool of dice equal to twice your proficiency bonus that recharge on short rest. Those dice start as D6s and increase to D8s at 5th level, D10s at 11th level, and D12s at 17th level. Whenever you would want to use one of the 3 following features, and you get more features as you level up, you can spend dice to use them. So Psionic Field and Psionic Strike both roll the dice to add to either reducing damage or adding damage to hit creatures. And then Telekinetic Movement lets you get this telekinetic pool, and if you want to use it more than once a short rest, you can spend dice to get extra uses of it.
Okay. So, third level, we're starting out. We get our psionic powers.
Yep.
We get how many dice?
Twice your proficiency bonus, and at 3rd level, it's 2. So you have a total of twice 2, which is 4 psionic energy dice.
So I get 4 uses of any of these things per short rest.
Correct.
Yes. And what were we getting with Arcane Archer? Like
2 dice per short rest of these special arrows. Yeah, they do 2d6 plus stuff sometimes.
sure that was for short rest or was that for long rest? Because
That's for short rest.
was it okay? Because it sucked, but yeah, that still sucks pretty hard.
It's just,
But
compared to this, it sucks very, very hard.
yes, but we're getting more dice, getting more things to do as we go on.
Mhm.
But yeah, the both the psionic strike and the protective field are really cool. I mean,
Yeah.
for your third level, these are really neat things you're being able to do.
Yeah, their little basic empowerments to attack rolls and defensive things is great. I really like telekinetic movement. I really being able to just like yoink and move things around and throw things over different places, and kind of gives you like a little Cryonis from Legend of Zelda, where you like move stuff, or not Cryonis, the one with the magnet where you move things around from Breath of the Wild. Like you can just throw things however you'd like, willy-nilly. I like that you can move creatures. I think that's super fun. You can jump your friends up, you can jump yourself up. Like you can move to all these different places with this big 30-foot movement, which again, as I've talked about with all these subclasses, fighters desperately want stuff to do out of combat. And this is a big, splashy, powerful thing to do out of combat that's distinct from fly, it's distinct from invisibility, it's distinct from a lot of the common, spell effects that we see a lot of. It's great. And getting an extra free use of it on top of the dice pool, delicious. Love it. 10 out of 10. No notes. 7th level, it moves us forward with 2 new abilities. So you get Psi-Powered Leap and Telekinetic Thrust. So Psi-Powered Leap says as a bonus action, you can propel your body with your mind. You gain a flying speed equal to twice your walking speed until the end of your current turn. Once you take this bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish short or long rest, unless you spend a psionic energy dice to do so again. So now you have another fly speed, kind of as a bonus action, that you can fuel with dice 2 if you want to, on top of the 1 free use you get per short rest, which is pretty sweet. Then we have Telekinetic Thrust. So this is whenever you deal damage to a target with Psionic Strike, you can force it to make a strength saving throw against a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus your intelligence modifier. If it fails, you can knock it prone or move it to 10 feet in any direction horizontally, which basically now is a empowerment of your Psionic Strike and not any new way to spend dice. It just takes a way you could spend dice and makes it a little bit better by knocking things prone or shoving things back. Really baller feature for Psionic Strike, especially on martial melee characters that want to get something on the ground and then continue to wail into it with a greatsword or whatever.
Does it say specifically it has to be a melee weapon, melee
No,
attack?
you could do it with your bows as well, but again, if you're hitting it with a ranged weapon, you're gonna have disadvantage if it goes prone. So like you would probably want to be knocking things back then with melee weapons. Maybe you're like throwing an axe, knock somebody off a bridge or something, which is pretty cool. Maybe you're using your longbow to do that kind of stuff. It still has to be within 30 feet of you because it has to be empowered by Psionic Strike. But as long as you can meet the prerequisites of hitting Psionic Strike, you can tell a kinetic thrust with anything.
It's not prone before you shoot it.
No, but like then if you wanted to shoot it again, you'd have disadvantage.
Yeah.
That's the thing to keep in mind.
If you've shot it off a bridge, that doesn't matter.
Yeah, you don't care. It's going to fall to its death, hopefully.
Yeah.
Guarded Mind is our 10th level feature. So starting at 10th level, the psionic energy flowing through you has bolstered your mind. You have resistance to psychic damage. Moreover, if you start the turn charmed or frightened, you can spend a die to end every effect on yourself, subjugating you to those conditions. So this is a neat little resistance to psychic damage, which is whatever, if like almost a non-factor because of so few things deal psychic damage. It's comical. And then the ending charmed or fears. Sure, fears are a little bit more common than charms. In either case, I don't love 10th level features like this. So this is a lot of the 10th level features are just like a bland, mediocre defensive feature. We've seen these from all the different subclasses of all the different classes throughout the game, and every time I'm just like, yeah, this is not anything I'm excited to ever get. Bulwark of 4th is Bulwark.
Well, yeah. I'm sorry, I was going to say Guarded Mind. I think they should have thrown in, resistance to scrying and stuff like that, and I still wouldn't like it, but they didn't.
Yeah, I really think that they need to take the idea of 10th level defensive features and throw it in the garbage because it was a novel concept that just in no way, shape, or form has any meaningful impact on the game. Especially whenever it's like, oh, you have resistance to 1 damage type. Okay. A lot of races start with 2 or 3. Sure, I guess. This is fine.
Is the solution to throw away 10th level features or improve them?
To give real 10th level features, to expand out character abilities, not give this crap. Bulwark of 4th is our 15th level feature, so you can at 15th level you can shield yourself and others with telekinetic force, which you already can do, but you can do it another way now. As a bonus action, you can choose creatures, which can include you, that you can see within 30 feet of you, up to a number of creatures equal to your intelligence modifier. So you pick your int mod worth of creatures within 30 feet of you that can include you. Each of those creatures is protected by half cover for a minute or until you're incapacitated. And then again, once you use this bonus action, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you use the energy die to take it again. So this is kind of a bonus action. Everyone gets +2 AC because that's kind of what half cover does. And you get 1 free use per long rest, and then you can spend dice to fuel it beyond that, which you're going to recharge on short rest. So this is going to very consistently feel like, oh, we're going into a fight, great bonus action, everyone get 2 AC, let's go. So yeah, that's pretty reasonable, I think, yeah.
Oh yeah. So I mean, I really like that. I was a little bit concerned. It's, oh, you can use it once per long rest, but that's what these dice are for.
And the other nice thing is this isn't something you're spending every single turn doing, where like with psionic strikes and protective fields, you're doing them pretty more regularly. But if you can you only need 2 or 3 of these per long rest, because you're gonna have like 1 per fight, and that's 1 is free, and then 2 more for 2 dice whenever you're sitting on 10, 12 dice. That seems great.
I was gonna Bulwark of Force. They're at 15th level. How many dice do you have at this point?
It's either 10 or 12, depending on the proficiency. I don't remember off the top of my head. I have to check the feather class real quick, but it's a lot. You have 10 or 12 of these dice.
I'm satisfied with that. Yes.
Yeah, it's 10 at the moment. It becomes 12 at 17 level.
Okay.
That's whenever you get +6 proficiency. It ends with Telekinetic Master. So at 18th level, your ability to move creatures and objects with your mind is matched by few. You can cast Telekinesis, requiring no components, and your spellcasting ability is your intelligence. Once on each of your turns, while you concentrate on the spell, including the turn you cast it, you can make 1 weapon attack as a bonus action. Once you cast the spell with this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest, unless you expend a psychic energy die to cast it again. So this lets you use Telekinesis, which is a 5th level spell, using your dice should you want to. It being concentration is a little bit of a bummer, but Telekinesis is pretty nifty. You can like throw around creatures and stuff and grab them and put them up in the air. You can throw around objects that cut way up to 1,000 pounds. It's a nifty little spell. Is it a capstone feature? But it's fine. It's definitely another new way to use your dice in a pretty interesting way. It definitely could have been lower level because, again, Telekinesis is a 5th level spell. Getting in at like 15th levels, even 10th level, doesn't seem that unreasonable. And 10th level is a little bit unreasonable, but like, a little bit earlier would have been nicer to see. But it's fine here. I'm not thrilled with it, but it is a lot better than a lot of other features that exist in this game.
Yeah, I mean, the rest of this subclass is good enough to where I don't mind the capstone. It's a little lacking. It's still something cool. Man, I like this one. Like you said at the beginning, though, it's like when I play D&D, I'm in a real sword and sorcery mindset, and this does feel a lot more, I don't know, sci-fi superhero kind of thing. That's not my thing.
Yeah.
You mentioned reflavoring it. I'd have to think a lot about how I would want to reflavor it, but I do genuinely like telekinetic stuff.
And this, what I really appreciate about this option is it really leans almost entirely into telekinesis. A lot of the Psi stuff likes to do teleportation. A lot of the Psi stuff likes to do mind reading stuff. A lot of the time, the telekinesis goes really heavily into full mental magic in a whole bunch of different wacky, wild ways. Very sci-fi, like you said. This one says no. This is a telekinesis-based subclass. We're going to be doing big jumps. We're going to be flying around using our mind. We're going to be throwing things around using our mind. We're going to be empowering and like throwing our weapons harder into stuff using our mind. We're not breaking anyone's will. We're not teleporting around. We're not doing anything that isn't telekinesis. I also really like they managed to stick the landing with like 6 out of 6 great ways to spend these dice. I'm really happy with all of the options they give you as far as like a new powerful tool to play with. Big fan of all of them. They all happen to do with telekinesis. So that's cool.
Great ways to spend dice and enough dice to spend.
Oh, yeah.
That's a huge one.
You can easily spend 6 of these in a single fight in the mid tiers and be like, oh, I have more still. Sweet.
You get dice and you get like, I like that they give you the first one free,
Yep. Telekinetic movement, Psi powered leap, and telekinetic master, all one free.
You're never going to blow all your dice on psionic strikes and then, not have anything else to do. Yep. You will always be doing a variety of things.
It's kind of like if you get to 18th level, 4 extra free dice, 1 per of those features, right? It's kind of how it's going to feel. And that's 16 dice is a ton of resources to spend. This is what fighter needs, right? This is a way for the class to have lots of flexibility and lots of options, give you plenty of things and ways to interact with the game and the world. And it as far as the subclasses go, I would say I think Psi Warrior is near, if not the top fighter subclass in the game, as far as bringing it up to par with being able to play outside of combat, being able to participate majorly in combat in some interesting ways, having team-oriented features and self-oriented empowerment, having plenty of different tools that it can sort of bring to a fight, bring to the game to play with in a meaningful manner, which is something that Fighter is desperately in need of. I'm a huge fan.
Now, my question.
Mhm.
We recently talked about Crusher, the 5-foot push.
Yeah.
Now this has got a lot of pushing going on.
Sure, telekinetic thrust can shove things 10 feet directionally.
Right. And this would this stack with the Crusher thing?
Maybe is the answer I'm going to give right now. Let me pull up Crusher real quick. So, it's the specific feature we're referencing is telekinetic thrust. So, whenever you damage a creature with psionic strike, you can force the target to make a strength save against a DC equal to 8 plus your proficiency bonus plus int mod. If it fails, you can knock it prone or move it 10 feet in any direction horizontally. Notably, it doesn't have to be 10 feet away from you. You can push it up, you can push it left, you can push it right, you can pull it towards you, whatever you want to do. Crusher says whenever you hit a creature with an attack that deals bludgeoning damage, you can move it 5 feet to an unoccupied space, provided the target is no more than one size larger than you. How I would probably rule this at the table, because again, I don't know if Jeremy Quafford's talked about this specific interaction on Twitter. I would hazard a guess. You would get the Crusher trigger first if you'd like, move it to an occupied space within 5 feet of you, and then push it. That's how I would rule it as a DM. Whether or not that how it works, rules is written, I don't know. I would guess it works somewhere close to that though. But talk to DM before if you want to bring that build to fruition, or better yet, tweet at Jeremy Crawford. He's great at answering these consequences. He's one of the game's designers.
Right. Now, let's say you can do it the ideal way you would want to. Do you think that empowers something you considered lackluster, which was the Crusher feature?
My number one question whenever it comes to this feature and comes to the push builds is, what are the payoffs? How am I making this matter? And the reality of it is, my teammates have to make it matter by putting an area of effect spells to deal damage, by putting down spike growths, by having ways for me to knock things into areas to take more damage is like the real payoff that these tend to have. This doesn't have any real payoffs for knocking things away from you. Knocking things prone tends to be way more valuable because then you have advantage on attack rolls immediately, right? You hit it with a big old club, knock it prone, and then smash it with a big old club at advantage. That's an easy payoff that you instantly get. I don't see anything in this option that pays off the 15-foot shove. And that's where I'm like, I wouldn't go that direction.
Yeah, I'm just thinking if you do have area of effect things to push people into, sometimes one of these effects just isn't enough to get them there. But if you have multiple things that stack on each other, then you can shove people a lot farther and have a lot more control over where they go. And that's what I was thinking. And I like it.
Definitely the case. The fact that you can move it up to 10 feet in any direction definitely says if you thrust something, it's going anywhere within 10 feet you want it. Stacked on that on top of the Crusher feet, maybe you can set up exact spacing to get people back into a Flaming Sphere, to get people back into a Moonbeam or something, right? This will play well at tables that have area control damage already. That is a meaningful upside to it. I don't know if you need it and Crusher, but you can have both if you really want both, right?
More control and more pushing.
Sure. And again, I really think it's valuable.
If I'm like 25 feet away from the Moonbeam, then 10 feet of pushing isn't going to do it.
Yeah, if neither is 15.
But 10 plus 15 or whatever.
Sure, keep stacking up those numbers.
Yeah.
I think it works.
You get the telekinetic feed too.
Sure.
Yeah.
I like the push most whenever it's attached to something else meaningful. And prone is very meaningful. Almost any character can benefit from that prone condition. And that's where I'm like, okay, that means the floor is excellent. The little bit of push upside, which I think is what pushes typically are, I'm here for.
All right. I just wanted to get out my requisite shove talk.
That's fair. Anytime there's a shove or a slow, we got to talk something about Ray of Frost or shoving people around and think about moving creatures. How can we make moving creatures good? I mean, it does help. Telekinetic Thrust is only 7th level, which means you can have a 3/5 level dip in Druid and have Spike Growth at the ready to power it yourself. That's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, got a grade for this one?
I think this one deserves an A. I think it's genuinely excellent. I think everything it brings to the table is everything I would want fighters to have. It gets itself a little boost of damage. It gives itself a great defensive option, and it's got telekinetic movement all out the gate. You get a whole bunch of stuff to engage with combat, to engage out of combat, right out the gate with a free use of the out of combat stuff. As it scales, there isn't a dead level except 10, and 10 isn't even that dead because at least you get fears on yourself, and that happens fairly commonly. So while it's not an amazing defensive feature, it's a useful one from time to time still, which is what I ask a defensive feature to be. There isn't a level here where I go, I wouldn't want to keep going in this subclass. There isn't a time where I'm like, this doesn't scale well. You're happy to multi-class because of the proficiency bonus. You're happy to stay in it because the upper tier features are really good. All around A tier feature. Excellent stuff.
I don't know, the capstone's a little bit lackluster.
I mean,
not terrible.
13 uses of telekinesis is pretty solid. It's like a bunch of 5th level spell slots, kind of.
Okay. I didn't think about it as 13 uses. That's something. Okay.
That's where it's like, yeah, I mean, it isn't nothing. It's pretty interesting, at least.
I was gonna save A for something more special, but no, I was gonna give it, but no, it's a solid A, but not A plus territory yet.
No.
All right, that was Psi Warrior. Let us know what you think about Psi Warrior in the comments. What did we miss? What do you think? And that was it. Thank you, Sam, and thank you everyone for joining us. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching. If you found this helpful, informative, or entertaining, I'd really appreciate it if you hit the like button below. You needn't smash it, a gentle tap will suffice. If you want to see more videos like this, subscribe to the channel. And make sure you check out the links in the description, where you'll find my Caverns Creatures series of comedy fantasy novels, Sam's full review of the spell, and other fun things.